Hi, everybody. So you guys just watched the episode, huh? Yeah. They're kind of rock stars, aren't they? Okay, I'll wait till everybody's seated. Well, thank you, everybody, for being here today. This is very exciting for all of us. I thought I'd take a minute and tell you a little bit about myself, and then we meet everybody up here, and then we can go into a conversation about love in the spectrum, all right? My name is Susan Clausen, and I run a PR company locally for film and for theater, and I also am a performer and actor, and I teach. I teach people on the autism spectrum in an improvisation class through unscripted learning called the Connections Program, and I teach filmmaking to people on the autism spectrum through Joey Travolta's Inclusion Films. And so that's my interest and passion for this conversation, and why I'm here. So then why don't you take a minute, and Dani, you want to introduce yourself?
All right, sure, thank you so much, Susan. So anyways, I'm Dani Bowman, founder and CEO of Dani Nation Entertainment, and a company that helps educate, elevate, and empower youth on the autism spectrum by helping them turn their passion in animation into a career. I'm currently 28 years old, and I live in Montana, Flint Ridge with Aunt Sandy and Patrick, who lives back in Montana, so he's working. Dan's right here to assist me whenever she needs help with communications. Oh yeah, by the way, I am, in 2018, I earned my BFA in animation and an MBA in global strategy leadership in the same university, Woodbury. And then eventually, well, if my company is working well, then I can go ahead and strive for my PhD in Claremont Graduate University. Councilmember Busey?
Yeah. and they told her she would never finish high school. That's not true. So I'm Sandy, I'm the aunt, and she's lived with us since she was 11. I work with her full time ever since she moved in with us, and my husband and I just started to look at the positive side of autism instead of the negative side of autism, because there's so much negative out there already. We didn't need to focus on that. So I just work with her full time. That's what I've always done since she moved in with us.
Hi, my name is Subodh Garg. I currently work at Catella Deli, and I did a variety of job tasks such as data entry, customer service, and silverware roll-ups. And I've been helping out a lot of customers at the restaurant after data entry.
Excellent, thank you, Subodh.
Hi everyone, my name is Aarti. I'm Subodh's sister. I'm very lucky to call myself that. I'm actually his younger sister. I'm 32 in a couple days, and I work with my family. We actually have a family business that wasn't really portrayed in the show, but we have a family business. We do auditing and accounting work, so I'm a CPA. I born and raised in LA, love traveling like my brother, and I enjoy singing, dancing, living life, doing fun things. And yeah, it's been a wild ride having Subodh as a sibling, but I'm extremely fortunate, and we're so honored to be here with you all today. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you guys. I kind of wanted to start off since a lot of this programming is about establishing some common ground. Let's kind of do that with this room. Just take a second, if you have ever navigated dating or are currently navigating dating, raise your hand. Okay, so look at what we all have in common already. So hands down. So if you've ever found it not always easy or had some discomfort with any of it, raise your hand. Yeah. Okay, very good. Now, if you've ever had to navigate that followed by a film crew, raise your hand. So I just want to point out that these guys are rock stars. Like, dating is complicated, right? It's complicated for all of us. And dating, when you're learning other things about social skills, is extra complicated. And allowing us to take a peek and learn more about you. Thank you. So I just wanted to start with that. Thank you. I think you guys are super brave, and we appreciate it. So I just wanted to start with that. We have a bunch of questions that we came up with, and then we'll kind of, as we move through them, we can reach out and see if there's any other things that you guys want to know about. I thought I would start with you, Dani. And did you ever imagine that you would be on a Netflix show? And what is it like seeing your life kind of on the screen? What's that been like for you?
Okay, so, good night for saying thank you. Showing my life on TV felt a little scary, especially I was afraid to say something or do something wrong. Obviously, I did something wrong, like kissing on the first date, but I just learned just to own it. I was just being myself, and I make mistakes, just like everyone else. We are all human.
I think that's a fantastic takeaway from that experience. And what about you, Subodh? Did you ever imagine that you would be on a Netflix show?
Yes.
You did?
I'm talking. Yes, I am on a Netflix show called Love on the Spectrum, and my first date was so great, and I just love her, and I want to communicate and text her, but sometimes it kind of gets difficult in 2022.
Yeah, it is hard. It's hard kind of learning how to navigate that and how to keep up communication, isn't it?
Yes.
It absolutely is. Well, what advice might you have for somebody else who's on the spectrum, for another person who is on the spectrum?
The other advice is going to other dating events and finding another relationship and settle down.
Yeah, and so when you say you would advise going to other dating events, what do you mean by way of like socializing?
Meeting new people.
Yeah. Sometimes getting comfortable with being new people is just about continuing to put yourself in that environment, isn't it?
Yes, it does.
Thank you. I'm going to pass this over to Dani, okay? Yeah, Dani, I'm going to ask you the same thing.
Well, and I agree with what Subodh said, is that it's great to meet with brand new people and open so many doors. And I have advice for those who are on the autism spectrum. My advice for a part of the autism community, you don't need to hide your autism, just be proud of who you are.
I think that was one of the big takeaways from this program. Did you guys feel that as well? That sort of, there's a really diverse experience of how people see the world, and I think you guys really shared that with us in this, and proud of it. What is something, Dani, that you kind of wish people knew about you? I mean, they saw a little peek into your life in this episode, in the series. What else do you wish people knew about you?
That is a tricky question.
It is.
I can be funny at times, but what Sandy says, unintentional humor. I get creative when it comes to baking meals, and also crafting.
So there's a lot of interesting things about you that you don't always necessarily see all of them up on the screen, but you've got a lot of, your creativity comes out in lots of different ways, doesn't it?
Well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I pass that to So what is it that you wish people knew about you that they might not have learned by watching?
I'll say baseball.
Baseball, what about baseball?
I just like to read stats and talk to players.
What is it about that interests you, Subodh?
Because I've been following stats for a long time.
Really? What's the most interesting stat that you can think of that really appeals to you?
I'm gonna say the MLB.com at bat app.
Oh, yeah? Do you follow it regularly?
Yes.
Excellent. That's very interesting. That's
Yeah.
very interesting. Okay, so I'm going to ask another question of What was it like being on the show? How has that changed your life? What has happened that's new in your life because of being on Love on the Spectrum?
First, we did the production of the crew, then we gone on the first date at a restaurant, and then we went on 2 other dates, and we found love.
Yeah, and that's a hard thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a hard thing.
So how does that affect your life after the show is over?
It feels so great.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that.
I can add a little bit to that. I know that it's been seen on the show that Subodh has wanted a girlfriend for such a long time. I'm not sure if everyone's aware, but he and Rachel did date for about a year, and then they did end their relationship together. In case anyone didn't see, but spoilers, sorry. But it was a really transformative experience for him. I think having that experience under his belt gave him such a sense of relief that I saw. Seeing that he can find love and that it's possible, that it's out there, and that he can find it again, that was huge not only for him, but for his family as well. That was really huge for us. And also just the amount of love that he's gotten, how many fans he has, how many supporters he has, huge transformative experience for him.
That's wonderful. Here, pass it to Jean here.
Okay, what is it like being on the show myself? Well, and how does it change my life? Okay. When the filming process began, I was nervous about the dating process, especially on a blind date. However, the filming crew made me feel comfortable about the filming process, enabling me to be my true, authentic self. They also allowed me to take breaks anytime I needed one. They would work around my schedule and Sandy's, right? And film whenever I was available, giving me plenty of time and plenty of notice before the shooting. And after the show came out, my biggest surprise from the show was the crossover that made it into the general public. When we were finally portrayed as individuals with autism, with likes and wants, just like anyone else. We're not like Rain Man. We've got a huge positive response from the general public. I'm really happy about this. And so is Subodh and Aarti and Sandy.
And I think that's
I guess the way it changed our lives is the way that people are more accepting of who we are now.
Yeah, I think you make a super important point, and it kind of speaks to why you're all here, is the role of media in sharing the different experiences that people have, right? And the fact that it was a mainstream media platform like Netflix means how many people got to see it?
Well, I remember it's in the top 10.
Yes, it was in the top 10. And so millions of people have seen this and had a sort of a very intimate view of what your experience is like. And I think that media plays a huge role in helping people see that. And you're training a lot of you to be journalists and the importance of showing different perspectives, right? And I think this program did a great job of that too. Thanks for cleaning that out.
No problem.
So now here's an interesting one. What are some of the challenges you had prior to this, and maybe even now, when it comes to dating someone?
Okay, that's a tough one. So one of the struggles that I have is finding time, because I get extremely busy, and especially with these big schedules going on. That is the reason why I am looking for someone who's in the same field as I am, so we can find time together and doing what we both have. In the past, I have gone on dates, and it's very confusing because I'm trying to find the being on the opposite. I was like being stuck between the rock and the hard place when it comes to dating with neurotypicals and autistics alike. And also when it comes to going on dates, I give them a kiss at the end, but that was only because I've gotten to know them before going on a date. And I already knew that they were attracted to each other. However, on a blind date, it's not the same. I realize I need to get to know the person better, otherwise I can get into situations that may not work out so well because I really just met this person. That means I should know know when and when not to express my love out loud.
And that's something that we all sort of learn, and I feel like I learned a lot watching you learn about that as well, sort of learning about what you do say out loud or what you're comfortable and when you do, and I think that was super brave too. So, and did you feel like this experience put you in a position where when you date now, you approach it differently, or?
I approach it differently and looked at my past mistakes, and it's good to learn from those mistakes. That's why we're human.
Yes. Has anybody else learned from dating mistakes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
But when I go into a second relationship, I learn from the mistakes, I won't make any more mistakes. Communication, time management reminders are so important.
They are, keeping communicating with people. Tell me a little bit more about that. I know that's tricky for you.
Because I didn't have time.
It was hard to remember to keep in touch with someone, right?
Yes. Like I say, if it's more than 5 seconds, she may not like it. It has to be less than 5 seconds.
The whole ... how long do you wait? It's tricky. So, the next question is kind of about that. Did you enjoy sort of some of the relationships, besides the dating relationships, you met a lot of other cast members and a lot of crew members. Did you enjoy that?
Yes, I enjoyed that, and Sean Bowman and Stephanie and Kian like that.
And that was the producers. Right.
Producers and directors.
And you kept in touch with your cast members after?
Yes, we do. We keep in touch by their emails and phones.
Excellent. Have you done any things together? Any events together?
We have this event on the 18th for Aarti's birthday.
Excellent. Excellent. And also,
We had a Christmas party.
excellent. That's fun. I think it's interesting that you were learning about establishing relationships, romantic relationships, and in the process, you made a lot of personal relationships as well, which friendship is sort of the beginning of dating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. I'm going to pass this over to Dani. All right, Dani, you want to speak to that one about creating relationships on the show?
Okay, so yes, it's been great forming other friendships and relationships, like with Subodh and Aarti, which means we get to have time to hang out together.
Yeah, that's excellent. And this kind of leads us back to something we were talking about before. You've gotten to know a broad range of people on the autism spectrum. That's something that we talk about a lot, where if you've met one person on the autism spectrum, then you've met one person on the autism spectrum. There's a huge variety of people and perceptions, right?
Hey, that's just what I said.
It's exactly like what you said. I learned it from you. So I guess the question that I have is, how do you think that people on the autism spectrum have been portrayed in the media or on television historically in the past, and how do you think this might be a little different?
Well, in the animation world, we're not just taken seriously. It's taken me over 10 years to get the animation studios to give my company and my students a chance. Just only last year, when I presented my students' work at the SIGGRAPH 2022 Electronic Theater in Vancouver. Has anybody heard of SIGGRAPH? Okay, and everyone from the animation industry was there and saw what we're able to do. That's when they started taking me seriously. In addition to that, when it comes to the representation of people, the portrayal of people in the media industry, media and entertainment industry, we get to see fictional characters now portrayed by people on the autism spectrum. Like, for example, we've seen there is live action films like Everything's Gonna Be Okay on ABC and As We See It on Amazon. There's also there's even some authentic characters. There's also some animated characters who are autism coded, but now you get to see some characters in Disney Pixar shorts like Loop and Float. They show characters being portrayed by people on the autism spectrum, and even the Proud family, Louder and Prouder. If anybody has seen the Disney episode if anybody has seen Disney Plus the Proud Family Loud and Prouder, they did include the character Bibi, played as a kid on the autism spectrum.
And why
I
is
mean-
that so important to have representation like that in public shows that people are watching?
On the autism spectrum have a voice. We all have a voice.
I'm going to also pass the microphone down to Aarti for a second, because I think she has something to add on that, about the historical representation.
Yeah, I would say growing up, we're children, we're millennials, right? So growing up, the only representation we had was someone like Rain Man. Or even later, we had Sheldon Cooper in The Big Bang Theory. And it was such a one-dimensional portrayal of autism. Not to say that that doesn't exist, of course it does. But you have someone like Subodh who people would call him Rain Man because he's great at math, when they're vastly different people with very different needs. And people on the spectrum, especially like Dani, look at and you see no one else that's in media that's like you. It's very alienating. And so what I love about this show so much, and we were fans of the show even before we were asked to be on it, what I love about the show is that it showed people on the spectrum. It's not like one line that you're on different points in the line. It's very much a sphere, and everyone can be anywhere within the sphere. It can mean so many different things to be on the spectrum. All 6 people that were chosen, so different. They couldn't be more different from each other, but they're all valid. They're all equally on the autism spectrum. And I think the feedback that we've gotten from people is that they were so grateful to see that from the show, that portrayed 6 very different interpretations of autism, and in a loving, caring way, not in the sense of a joke or a punchline that had been before. And we're so grateful that Kian, the creator of the show, had this idea and wanted to make this happen, and it's so important. So I applaud you guys for being here and wanting to make that voice for people on the spectrum, those who are neuroatypical, neurodiverse, put that message out there and continuing to show different facets of that.
Yeah, and also I'd like to add to that, before Love of the Spectrum, I just got a lot of feedback from families or just people that didn't understand the spectrum, that they thought Dani was just like a little girl, like a 2-year-old, 4-year-old. It's like, no, she's not. She's a young adult with wants and needs. She wants to find a boyfriend. She wants to have sex, just like anybody else here. She wants to be and understand, all of that. And so, FYI, season 2's coming up. It's going to be about sex. That's an FYI. She's going to be.
Well, you gave that away, Sandy.
Sorry. Okay, cut that from the.
No spoiler alert.
No spoilers.
So, because, they just want, like everybody else wants. I think the show really brought that out, from showing that everybody has different needs, and it doesn't matter where on the spectrum they are.
There's another thing to watch if you guys haven't already, is on the site that they created for this event, Jennifer Cook, who's the one that went on a date with Subodh, a practice date, speaks. There's a video of her she was interviewed. She wasn't able to come today, but she speaks a lot to that as well. She herself is on the autism spectrum and was.
She's going to be a lot in the next show.
Yeah, she'll be. Yes, she will. And she shares sort of the human spectrum versus like this is what it looks like. How there's just this. It's worth a watch as you're kind of like processing all this information. Okay, I think we're gonna go back to Dani. Can you hand that back? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did your family's life change after finding out that you were diagnosed with autism?
Well, as far as I know, my parents did not accept that I was different. They used to blame each other and fight a lot, so they never really accepted my autism until this day. My dad disappeared from my life, and my mom still doesn't really participate in any of the autism events. Well, occasionally she does, but still. But my aunt and uncle embraced it. Just help me be the best version of myself. Is that right, Sandy? Anything you want to say?
That's right.
Yeah, I think. And I do think that that's another important thing about mainstream media embracing and showing the many faces of autism is so people do have more of an understanding. So families have more of an understanding when someone in their life is diagnosed with and what that looks like, and the wonderful things that that looks like, and the incredibly creative brain that you have. I'm gonna pass this down as well. Okay, and you want to answer that same question?
Do you remind me of the question?
Absolutely. Just sort of how your life as a family changed when Subodh was diagnosed.
So, as I said, I'm Subodh's younger sister, but I have discussed this topic at length. My mom was actually pregnant with me when they found out. She was just about to pop, and then they found out about Subodh's diagnosis. You can imagine in the early 90s, no one had any idea what was going on. They didn't know anything about autism. So one thing that I admire about my parents so much is they of course were devastated. There was so little knowledge about what it means to be on the autism spectrum. And our culture specifically, it prides excellence, it prioritizes hard work and sacrifice and education and always doing the best and never showing weakness and always putting a brave front, sweep everything under the rug. That is our Indian culture, that is how it is. So it would have been so easy, and Indian society would have allowed for my parents to just sweep it under the rug, try not to deal with it, try not to think about it too much. It would have been so easy for them to do that. But they looked at my brother and they said, we're gonna make this guy thrive. He's not just gonna survive through this world, he's going to excel. We're going to push him, we're never gonna be ashamed of him. And the amount of work and struggle that my parents went through is tremendous. I could never do it. Every step of the way, my mom had to fight for my brother's rights, for support services, for special needs and special classes in schools. She took him to countless therapies, countless occupational therapy, speech therapy. He didn't even speak till he was 6. She had to teach him sign language to communicate until then. And so she just worked so hard, and similar to Dani, he was told his whole life he'll be lucky if he even makes it to high school in the first place, let alone graduate. And he not only graduated, he was in very minimal special ed classes, and he was able to go to community college, he's gotten certificates, he has a job, gainfully employed. These are all huge accomplishments that are really she found these programs for him. It's tremendous. So anyway, going back to the question, it was hard. It is not something that anyone ever wants to hear. Any parent wants to hear that their child has special needs, but it took their mentality and it pivoted it and saying, okay, instead of pushing our kid to be a doctor or an engineer or whatever it is, we're gonna change our mindset and say, what does he need to be successful? What does he need to survive and thrive in our world? And it is hard. Probably one of the hardest things about autism is communication and communicating and relating to the world around you.
Again, and that's why this whole one is so important, because as you move forward and you storytell on behalf of the entire world, not just your little part of it, you are sharing the perspectives of people who see things differently, right?
Yeah,
and that's why it's really important as storytellers that you embrace that.
And I will say that for me personally, again, being younger sister, I didn't really know what was going on, but all these therapies my mom took him to, she had to take me. There was no one else to take care of me. So I benefited from learning sign language as a child. I benefited from occupational therapy, so it really helped my development as well. So it was actually kind of a blessing. I'm very lucky.
And then, I'm gonna pivot this just to one other thing that speaks specifically to your experience. Your parents' love experience was not the same as your, so talk through a little bit about what your parents' love experience and marriage experience was like and how that has impacted this whole conversation.
Yeah, so my parents are from India. They were born and raised in the New Delhi area of northern India. Arranged marriage is the norm out there. There's 2 kinds of marriages, they call them, arranged marriage and what they call love marriage, which is a non-arranged marriage, basically. So my mom decided she was ready to get married. My dad was already in the country, and he said, he told his boss, I need a month to go back to India to get married. And he's like, oh, where's your girlfriend? He's like, what girlfriend? I need to find one in the first place. He goes to India. My mom's parents put her bio data, they call it, it's like a love resume in the newspaper. My dad's dad finds that in the newspaper, calls up the dads, talk, then the kids meet up. They talk for 2 hours, they get engaged. And then they get married 2 weeks later because my dad needs to come back here to get back to work. And that's their love story.
So then they're trying to navigate this whole world with that background, which I think is another interesting part of this story, right? Where we're seeing a snapshot into their life, like an arranged marriage, which is probably different from the majority of the people in this world, and this room, and they're this very happy, loving, supportive couple.
So different. They were so baffled by this process. When Jennifer came to our home and was speaking through the dating process, my mom was just as enraptured. She had no idea what the process was about going on dates and pulling out chairs, none of that. It was just totally foreign to them. But what's lovely is that they were never saying you must get an arranged marriage because that's all we know. They were just very open to the idea of what I said, a love marriage, and they just want us to be happy.
Yeah, well, it's a testament to your family wanting what's best for their kids. That's fantastic. Okay, where do we want to move to now? I kind of answered that already. I'm going to jump to this one right here because we've already answered the other couple. So I'm just going to ask you, Dani, what advice do you have for other neurodiverse individuals who are looking to date or interested in dating, and what are some takeaways that you can share?
Oh, sure. So one of the most important things I would say for neurodiverse people is to take your time to know each other. It's just safer that way. Also, it's always remember to don't necessarily express your feelings or how much you love the person out loud. It's too soon. And also help them set their boundaries from the very, very beginning.
And that's important for all of us. Again, one of those sort of common ground things is creating the boundaries that you're willing to accept and that you're looking for from another person, which doesn't necessarily make them right or wrong, right? It just makes them maybe right or wrong for you. And I think that you learned a lot about that. What about you? Do you have anything that you would like to share with other people on the autism spectrum about dating?
Takeaways.
Yeah.
My takeaway is about time management.
Tell me about that.
Time management, if I could book my answers, so if I could go to Westwood and meet Christopher Arnold, who works as a patient technician at the patient escort, I think I can meet him just once in a while.
So figuring out when you meet someone, how you communicate that, how you plan that.
Yes. Something that you learn about dating. I just went to go to a dating event that I've met one person that I haven't seen them in a long time.
So one of your takeaways was to continue to go to dating events, right?
Yes.
And so you're still going to them?
Yes.
And you just went to one recently, right?
Yeah, it was in February 19th.
And how many people did you meet there?
A lot of people.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I think it's great. See, just learning to be comfortable with the process of meeting new people is super important in friendships and dating in life, right?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, you guys, this is so interesting to me. It's fascinating to me to hear your perspectives. And does anybody up there have questions for anybody up here that hasn't been answered yet? Yeah.
This is specifically for Dan, because I understand that not only people have the opportunity for higher position roles, and you mentioned that you're an executive as well as you have a role in education as an educator. Can you tell us a little bit more about your own initiatives in the year to achieve
Okay, so there's lots of things, lots of things.
Sorry, we were just gonna actually close with that because Dani has been struggling with getting her company and her students out into the real, for them to be taken seriously in the real world, because they're autistic, so that everybody's like, I'm not sure, for like the last 14 years. But recently, was they thought, well, the work that they do is probably very amateur, they don't know what they're doing. But she recently
We show professional works, like I mentioned, the SIGGRAPH Electronic Theater.
SIGGRAPH is the largest electronic theater in the world, the largest electronic convention in the world. And it happens all in different parts of the world. So last year it was in Vancouver, this year's going to be here in LA. But so Dani took her students' work that they had done for the electronic theater or SIGGRAPH to Vancouver and featured it in front of all these people, all of these animation studios, and they saw what they actually do instead of just making assumptions. So they're actually going to show a little bit of that, so you could see, what they could actually do. And that really changed the conversation within the animation industry. And so now the animation companies are reaching out to us and saying, what can you guys do for us? And after 14 years. So that, anything you want to add about that?
It was like kind of like a miracle. Even like we recently, when we're promoting the SIGGRAPH Electronic Theater, we even had a contact from Titmouse that was able to submit their reels. We were grateful to have that. It's the connection.
That's fantastic. So before we show this, because we are going to show this, I also wanted to ask you this question about how has your experience with Love on the Spectrum impacted your job opportunities. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Since I work at Catella Deli, I had a fan who watches a TV show called Love on the Spectrum. The names were Zach and Anna, who found me a job, and I currently work there 2 days a week.
So this was a fan of yours that learned about you through watching the show, right?
Yes.
I love that. I love that. And there was one other thing that I wanted to talk about. Share this. Was about social media, because both of these participants are very active in social media. Dani's at Dani Bowman 1, and Subodh is at traveling_Subodh, and that's the importance of, any kind of media is in spreading perspectives, showing of how a person lives, and that's another way both of them share. Can you speak to that a little, Dani, about how you use social media?
Social media has been my best tool to reach out to the public and show them what we can do, not what we can't do. I try to keep it positive all the time, since there's enough negativity out there. So it's but the most important thing when you're out on social media, stay positive. Haters are gonna hate.
Circling back though to, you wanted also to know, how did she handle being an executive of the company? So you want to talk a little bit about being an executive and how much work you do? When do you get up in the morning?
Well, I get up 6 in the morning typically, and what I do get myself refreshed, and usually at 9 we typically have general meetings at 9 a.m. on what to do for the day. Sometimes I get one-on-one students attending our hourly one-on-one animation sessions. Sometimes I have workshops. The workshops just get bigger and bigger.
Her day typically begins at 6, but she's up since 4:30 in the morning, every day, 7 days a week, 16 hours a day to keep it going. That's a lot of an executive. So if you want to run a company, that's what you have to look forward to. There's a lot of work, because you have to do all your work before your employees come in. And she does have all the one-on-ones. She's got over 40 one-on-ones now, and she has client work, she has projects she's doing, she does a lot of speaking.
So much on my plate, and I also go to so many autism conferences, invited.
That's excellent.
It's a lot of work, but you have to also have the right training, because she did get her MBA in global strategy and leadership and learned a lot, read a lot. Who's your the one that you
Dr. Santina Demont, and also I learned from the book from Jim Collins' Good to Great.
And I think it was really intuitive of you to understand that your work is such a big passion for you. It's a big part of how you spend your time. So in this setting, when you were dating, you said it's important for you to find somebody who's also passionate about your work because it's such a big part of who you are.
It's true. It's like, it's hard to find this gem who can work and be motivated, but it's worth the journey.
Absolutely.
For her, you know, when because she's dated neurotypicals and autistics both, and when the neurotypicals, she says all the time, well, we just want to hang out. What's that? What does it mean, hang out? Do what? It's like, I don't know, sit on the couch.
Almost do nothing like sit on the couch. I just don't want to be somebody who just stays in the house all day long, watching TV all day long. What about going to the outdoors? That's good.
Okay, so maybe we can take a minute and show your video reel that you shared. Is that something we can? Yeah. All right.
So keep in mind, this was done by students, even the music was done by students. And this is only a snippet. It was all backed up by Disney. So,
We're like grateful and invited there when that happened.
it's just a snippet. It's actually 28 in official, so you know, I think only so one or two, right?
On screen.
Before we play the video, we just wanted to say a thank you and give out little gifts. And please stay tuned for after the video as well. We will be announcing the third raffle prize winner.
All those women, people there, they got it there. She animated that little guy. She's really proud of it.
That's fantastic. Thank you. We're just going to take a quick second for closing remarks. If you guys had one final thing you want to say, I think there's a microphone on that side. We'll work our way down and do it fine.
I guess I'll start. I just wanted to thank you all again so much today for being here and for everyone out there who's supporting us. And I just wanted to speak to anyone who has a loved one on the autism spectrum or someone with neurodiverse needs. One message that was in the show that we want to emphasize is that there's hope and that there's love, and both of those things are so important for all of us out there. And last of all and most of all is acceptance. So we want to propagate that message that hope, love, acceptance are so instrumental to people with special needs, and continue to support people because who knows where they can get to. I personally never expected my brother to be this famous celebrity guy. But we're so proud of him, and we're so excited to see what the future holds. He is looking for love again, so we're hoping that the show can work its magic for us again in terms of someone listening out there, or if you know someone out there, please let us know. We really would love to meet someone again, right, Subodh?
Yeah, at the daily events.
Thank you all so much.
One more thing I would like to say, for those of you on the autism spectrum, remember, when they say, don't prove the naysayers wrong. When they say to you, you cannot do this, or you cannot do that, just look straight at them and say, yes, I can, and I will, just watch me.
I think you're doing a raffle drawing. Did you do anything else? Okay, I think you're doing a raffle drawing, yeah?
Okay, awesome.
Excellent.
Okay.
Last. Feeling lucky.
Raffle. Would you like to pick? Okay, can I read it? 620417. There's your lucky winner, son. Do you want to go into session? Oh. Okay, everyone.
Well, thank you, everybody, for being here. I think we're going to move into.
Yes, we are going to do a meet and greet over here in the front room with a new step and repeat, so you guys can talk to the cast members and get some pictures with them. Thank you all so much for coming. Make sure you grab more merch as you walk out. And yes, snake to merch, and all that stuff, please grab some.